Hello there. Look, I am so thrilled to be here today. You just don't know how thrilled I am. But let me ask you this. Pushing through didn't start as burnout, or actually I'm just going to say this. Pushing through didn't start as burnout. It didn't start at work. Nah, it didn't start in leadership, some leadership class you learned or anything. It actually started earlier. So, as babies, we learn to cry, right? We're allowed to cry. That's just what we do, that's what's expected. And our parents just say that's the way they are, right? As toddlers, we're allowed to feel, we're allowed to have the boo boo and all that. We are allowed to go through the things that we go through as toddlers. We're even allowed, hey, get this, we're even allowed to say no, right? Um, and I'm just checking to make sure everything is going well. But eventually we start hearing, stop crying, suck it up, get over it. Hey, life's not fair. That's just the way it is, and you need to learn early, right? And I'd say that's somewhere in our grade school on up. This is just how we're taught. And it's not because our parents are cruel. That's not it. But because resilience was modeled as endurance. And I want to share with you exactly how that showed up for me this week. I had surgery this week on my hand, two procedures, and my mother came to be with us. Now, I don't know if you watch my feed or anything, but she turned 90 years old a few days ago, Valentine's Day. And I'm so honored that she's still around with us and we get to love on her for however many years that God gives us moving forward. Um, but doing stairs, doing certain things, your body takes toll and they're not as easy as they usually are. But she came to take care of me. And I watch her walking up and down the stairs because we have stairs. I watch her doing the things that I know are causing her some pain. She pushes through because of her love for me and her wanting to take care of me and being there at a time where she feels that I need her. She's still mom, right? And that's what we do. We learn that because you see, she's modeling it for me. And so I'm still seeing it even now. And we learn that really processing or thinking through this isn't usually what we do. We just do it. We see something that needs to be done and we do it and we get through it and we move on. We move through it. We're moving because it needs to be done. Being strong is what or who we need to be. And we see that in sports, right? The Olympics is on now. And how many times do you see someone get hurt and they get back up or they try to process through whatever it is or they try to get through whatever it is that they need to get through? I'm okay, right? And I saw that in before I got my surgery, before my doctor finally says, okay, this is it. Because the pain was livable. It hurt. I couldn't hold anything with any weight. Um, I couldn't do certain things, even buttoning a shirt. Simple things like that was hard for me. But because it had to be done, I pushed through. People would ask, do you need help? No, I got it. I got it. I pushed through. And I think in a lot of ways, I could have endured it indefinitely. I could have accepted that's just the way it's going to be. That's just life. And how many times do we do that, right? But just because your pain is livable doesn't mean that it's wise to keep living with it. And so my doctor let me go through the process of trying to deal with it myself, doing the small things like wearing a brace and all that for like 4 months. I had the shot and everything, and it didn't work. And he said, you have no other option. The only option to make it stop hurting and to fix it is surgery. And so at that point, it was just because you can push through doesn't mean you should. It doesn't mean that that's the best course of actions. And just because something is survivable, just because we can survive through it, doesn't mean that it isn't costing you. So the question isn't, am I burned out? It's what has pushing through? What is my continually making do costing me over time? And I want you to see this. We are high performers. We're high performing women. Um, and I want you to look at the second part of that word, performing, because performing means doing, to do, to show up. It's moving in a certain direction. It's producing, right? It's making sure that things happen. And that's what we are. And that's what we do. We are women who make things happen. If something needs to move, we move it. If something needs to be handled, oh, we handle it. If there's silence, we feel it because we can find the answer. We can find whatever it is that needs to fill that space. And if there's tension, we resolve it. We fix it, right? If nothing is moving, what happens is we feel like we're failing. If we're not producing, if we're not making something happen, if we're not taking away the pain, we feel that we're slacking. I mean, even to the point where just this week, someone shared with me how they felt. And there was nothing I could do to change that feeling. But in my heart of heart, for a couple of days, it went around in my mind. How can I make her feel better? How can I change this? How can I do something? And it wasn't for me to do. And instead of evaluating, a lot of times we don't, because that pause makes us feel like we're behind, right? It makes us feel like, well, when we're evaluating, it's quiet. And that's an uncomfortable place to be. Evaluation is off stage. And we're one of the key players in this performance, right? Evaluation is invisible. And we're playing one of the leading roles or the main supporting role, right? So, how do you deal with this evaluation? Because no one applauds your evaluation, do they? In fact, most of the time, no one even knows that you're evaluating something, that your silence is giving you time to process something, right? And no one gives feedback for your wisdom. In fact, a lot of times that wisdom goes unseen or unacknowledged or unknown, right? And no one sees the restraint, the restraint that you show when you don't step in, when you do take time to process, when you don't automatically handle it or fix it. No one sees that restraint. Or if they see it as something not wanting. They want you to step in. We build our lives around feedback. Almost everything we do, we look to others to show us, did we do something right? Or did it have the effect that we expected it to? And that feedback comes from being a performer. How do you know where you are if you're not getting that feedback? How do you know you making the impact that you should? How do you know if people are receiving you or understanding you as they should? Not without feedback. In fact, in our jobs and everything, that is what we look for. So we know how we're progressing, how we're growing, how we're showing up in our job is by that feedback. It doesn't come from reflection, because if it's just on our reflection, it's just from our point of view. And who says our point of view is always right? So, of course, we default to what we feel gets validated, to what we feel everyone is getting, right? So, the thing is that default is your endurance, it's visible. They are seeing, everyone is seeing how much you always step in, how you are always the strong one, how you are always the one there. You're always the one that they can count on. That's endurance. And it is 100% visible. But you know what isn't? You're evaluating the situation, because you do that in private. And most of us don't talk through our evaluation around other people, right? Because we're processing through it. And that evaluation is not visible. If you've built your whole identity around being the one who makes things happen, if that's the way everyone sees you in every aspect of your life, if you're the one at work that they always see as the one they can count on, the one who's going to make things happen, the one who, if things fall through, she'll get us through it, or she'll come up with something, or she'll think of something. The one at home who's always going to step in when something's forgotten by someone else. You're going to always be the one to hop up and take it to school, skip your lunch so you can take it to school. You're the one that's always going to make sure that if someone else forgot to prepare dinner, that you're one step ahead. You already know what you're going to do. If that's the way everyone sees you, if you've built your identity, your worth, your need around this, who are you when you stop pushing? Endurance runs out. It's simple. Sometimes your pushing through can actually land you in the hospital. It's happened to me. It's when your body shuts down on you and say, no more, I can't. No one, absolutely no one can push forever. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy. And it's undoable. And at some point, something gives. And usually it's you. Sometimes you actually crash physically. Like I said, you may put yourself in the hospital because your body says, I can't. I'm done. I can't do anymore. Sometimes it's emotionally when you just shut down. I can't process anymore. I can't take anymore. I just can't. You ever felt that way? Have you? Have you ever dealt with this physically? I am. Have you ever dealt with this emotionally? I have. And you know what? Sometimes it's relationally. And the relationships that you have in your life, can I deal with this relationship? Can I show up in this relationship 100%. And sometimes you feel like you can't even show up 20%. So, what are you offering other people when you can't show up in these relationships? Sometimes you just quietly you just stop caring because emotionally, physically, relationally, you've shut down. Sometimes it's actually harder to come back from that crash, not because you can't, but because you don't want to. You're done. And I've heard this in so many of my ladies. I'm done. I just can't. I'm done. Does this sound familiar to you? And that's being honest. Back to, because it's so close right now, back to the surgery I had. What happens when we keep going through that pain? When we keep allowing ourselves to push through, that nerve is constantly compressed. And at first, what you do is you do feel the pain. But then, if it goes on long enough, if that pain is long enough, you stop feeling the pain. That compression starts being a numbness. And that's what you feel, a numbness. And that numbness is more dangerous than any other pain. Because pain is your signal. It tells you that something is wrong. Hello, it gets your attention. Numbness signals that something has shut down. And so my question is, where are you? Where are you right now? Living on endurance cost you. It costs you sensitivity to your own limits. It costs you sensitivity to your joy. It costs you sensitivity to desire. When's the last time you felt joy, or when's the last time that you had desire? Sensitivity, or that lack of being sensitive to the things in your life, your thoughts, your heart, cuts off your sensitivity to your warning signs. You skip over them. You stop evaluating. You just function. You just do what's going to get you through. If you're not burned out, if you're just living on endurance, the question is, or isn't, how do I push harder? How do I get through this season, this phase? It's really, that question really is, what have I ignored too long? Maybe you're not burned out. Maybe you are just living on endurance. I want you to understand the difference. There's nothing wrong with you for being tired. We all hit that phase. And there's nothing weak about realizing that you can't keep pushing the same way. In fact, realizing that is a good thing. But this is what's important. not what are you going to change. I don't want you to even think that. But what I do want you to know, or what I do want you to reframe in your mind, is what would it look like to evaluate instead of automatically pushing through? If just to take that second, that pause and step back and evaluate, look at it clearly, step outside of the situation and evaluate instead of pushing through. My question to you today is, what have you been tolerating just because it's livable? I am so glad that you sat with me today. I am so glad that I was able to come here today, because I felt that this is a conversation that we need to have. And until next time, I'm Mischelle O'Neill, and you are on Break Time Live. See you next Thursday. Take care. Bye bye.